Researchers in Thailand have found that mangrove tree extract can stop the body from producing hormones that result in hair loss. This could be a big breakthrough for your bald mates. This is link in bio for details. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be talking about the cure to baldness that you guys all sent me. This was a post made on a Lad Bible Instagram, and I had at least a couple hundred DMs about this. Researchers in Thailand have found that mangrove tree extract can stop the body from producing hormones that result in hair loss. This could be a big breakthrough for your bald mates. This is link in bio for details, and it had 120,000 likes. So when you go to the actual article, it says mangrove tree extract could help tackle baldness, study finds. Researchers in Thailand believe a mangrove tree extract could help to tackle baldness. The extract, called, I don't know how to say this, Avicequinon C, was found to stop the body producing hormones that can result in hair loss. Thus far, the research team at Chulalongkorn University's Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences have tested the extract on a group of 50 men and women with androgenic alopecia, the most common form of hair loss. Participants had made visible improvements after a month, and what's more, it seemed the treatment not only stemmed hair loss, but also boosted hair growth. Stemmed? This means it may help people who have already lost more than their fair share of hair. The next step is to test the extract on more volunteers so that it can be approved by Thailand's Food and Drug Administration. Should it get the go-ahead, a private company has already bought the patent of the research, which it can use to develop a hair loss product. None of the volunteers experienced allergic reactions. Professor Wanchai Diknamkul from the Faculty of Pharmaconacy and Pharmaceutical Botany said, "We found out it had many benefits. First, it stops the enzymes from producing hair loss hormones, and second, it could also help produce the protein that stimulates hair growth." So we took pictures of the volunteers' heads in every corner and also used a microscope to look at the hair loss area to examine the nature of the hair loss and make an appointment after a month and repeat the same process for 4 consecutive months. We compared pictures of the same spot and found that only after a month, participants showed positive changes with improvements in hair strength that also sticks well to the scalp, while none of the participants showed any allergic reaction. He added that its natural derivation could make it a more desirable option than synthetic alternatives. He explained, "We screened more than 50 herbal extracts and more than 20 pure substances and found that Avicennia marin extract contains the active ingredient Avicequinon C, which inhibits the enzyme that produces hair loss hormones. Also, Avicennia marin extract helps to build proteins that can promote hair growth as well, thus helping to solve the problem of hair loss completely. Several cosmeceutical products claiming to treat hair loss mostly consist of chemically synthesized drugs, which may cause unwanted side effects, especially allergic reactions and skin inflammation, and affect the body system. Besides, almost all of them have not been scientifically proven or researched to determine the mechanism of action of the substances used. In the past," what the fuck? "Fisherman finds a lump of whale vomit worth 171,000 pounds. Okay. Where the fuck was I? "In the past, we've imported synthetic drugs from foreign countries, both topical and oral medication, but those only showed results at 30% and 48% respectively. Furthermore, the side effects were also much more. Therefore, extracts from the Avicennia marin plants found in Thai mangrove forests will reduce the import of those synthetic drugs, and it may also be an export product that creates market value for the country as well." So, what do I think of this product? So, let's go look at the clinical data that reinforces its supposed efficacy. So here is the main study referred to. Avicequinon C isolated from Avicennia marina exhibits 5-alpha reductase type 1 inhibitory activity using an androgenic alopecia relevant cell-based assay system. So first of all, this is a study that is an in vitro model, meaning it is not in humans. This is literally using a cell-based assay to determine its efficacy in humans in a hair loss prevention context. And in addition to that, the main thing that stood out to me as problematic off the bat was the fact that it exhibits 5-alpha reductase type 1 inhibitory activity. So as you probably know, if you use finasteride, it works by inhibiting 5-alpha reductase type 2 and type 3. Dutasteride, on the other hand, inhibits type 1, type 2, and type 3. But the difference in efficacy between finasteride and dutasteride, how significant is it, and how much does 5-alpha reductase type 1 actually play into androgenic alopecia? Now, a lot of the finasteride proponents will propose that 5-AR type 1 is not present in sufficient enough density in the scalp to be something that is worth inhibiting whatsoever, and rather it's just like, you know, you're basically just inhibiting neurosteroid production at that point, is what, you know, many will propose, because 5-alpha reductase type 1 is actually present in very significant quantities in the brain. So if you inhibit that enzyme, isoform in particular, you're going to get probably way more side effects in a neurological context if you are prone to them. So that's why dutasteride can be way more, you know, besides the fact that it inhibits 100% or, you know, 90 whatever percent of DHT, it also basically has like full blockade of 5-AR in the brain. So, but what we do see is that dutasteride does in fact produce better hair loss prevention. It is actually more potent than finasteride, and that is because 5-AR type 1 does contribute somewhat to hair loss. So despite the fact that we've been led to believe that 5-AR type 2, type 3 are the only important ones, that finasteride targets, you know, 5-AR type 1 does have some, you know, contributing action to DHT production in the scalp that leads to androgenic alopecia. But how significant is it? Not that significant. And the reason is that's why you can get away with just using finasteride and still achieve hair loss prevention in the majority of individuals who catch it early enough. So the fact that 5-AR type 1 is basically uninhibited when you use finasteride and you can still achieve hair loss prevention, you know, it shows that it's not overly involved in the process. But the fact that you can compare finasteride and dutasteride efficacy and see like consistently better outcomes with dutasteride users in a pure hair context, not side effect context, you know, suggests that 5-AR is at least there in sufficient quantities to contribute to it. It's just not something that everyone needs to like broad spectrum address with a broad spectrum 5-AR inhibitor to actually achieve hair loss prevention, just halt the further progression of it. So if we're going to use something that is targeted to one of the isoforms of this enzyme, which one will we preferentially use? This would be the last one, because this is the least contributing one to androgenic alopecia. This has no 5-AR type 2 inhibitory activity or 5-AR type 3. We have 5-AR type 1 only in this cell-based assay. So unless there are other studies suggesting that it inhibits 5-AR type 2 and type 3, how like efficacious is this? Like, this is something you could maybe stack on top of finasteride to basically make a shitty dutasteride, but that's pretty much it, dude. It's not going to do anything above and beyond that in a hair loss prevention context. And if you're using it solo, it's only inhibiting the type 1, which is the least relevant by a mile in the hair loss prevention outcomes. And this is why finasteride is so good at what it does. And yeah, dutasteride is slightly better, but it's slight. And that slightness comes from 5-AR type 1. The meat and potatoes of protection comes from what finasteride is targeting, and that's why it works so well. So this is a subpar compound in my opinion, and I'm surprised it's getting so much hype, because for me, like, you're left, like, you're pretty much doing nothing. Like, when you're just inhibiting type 1, you're literally hitting the one isoform that is most responsible for neurosteroid production, so you're getting a disproportionate decrease in neurosteroid production for the worst reduction in hair loss prevention outcomes possible. So this is like the worst compound you could use, because you're getting, if you're at least going to slash your neurosteroids down, at least get like full blown protection. But instead they're using the shittiest thing for your hair with the shittiest thing for your brain concurrently. Like that's literally what this targets. This is why finasteride is so great, because it's so good at literally targeting the 5-AR types that you actually want in your scalp, and for the most part leaving alone the shit in your brain that you don't want to touch. Now obviously, you know, there's some inhibitory activity and it does inhibit 5-AR, and that is problematic for certain individuals, but there's a reason why it's a very slim amount of individuals who experience debilitating neurological side effects, and the majority of people have no perceivable difference in their quality of life whatsoever when they take finasteride, and it's because of exactly this. So for me, I don't really see the promise in this thing, to be honest. Like, this is something you could theoretically stack on top of finasteride, but at that point, it's like, why aren't you just using dutasteride? We have something that is literally a pharmaceutical designed to specifically target these enzymes, but instead we're using a random isolated extract or something to hit in the most subpar way possible 5-AR inhibition, and we don't know what other broad spectrum effects it has on other things in the body. Like, at least with the pharmaceutical, we know it was designed to target this one thing, whereas this random isolated thing, like, we don't know what the fuck else it does. With finasteride, we have hordes of data to support its efficacy in humans, hordes of data to support what its actual pharmacologic activity is at the receptor site. We have no idea what this shit is doing. Realistically, we have this like in vitro model, and then we have like a random human study done in fucking Thailand or whatever. So for me, this is not something I see as promising whatsoever. And the fact that they're proposing that it's, side effect free version of a pharmaceutical, it's like, if you're actually achieving adequate 5-AR inhibition with something, you're going to have the same side effect profile. That's the whole point. If you actually get sufficient hair loss prevention with 5-AR blockade, you're achieving the same thing you've already done with finasteride. So anybody who's proposing the mechanism by which they're preventing hair loss is through 5-AR inhibition, but somehow it's better and it's not going to cause the side effects that literally inhibiting 5-AR does, you're pretty much saying it's either going to not work for hair loss because it's not potent enough to inhibit 5-AR, or if it is potent enough to inhibit 5-AR, it's also going to give you side effects. Like, there's no fucking way around it. So no, this is not something I'm excited about at all. And the fact that the literal selling point is that it inhibits type 1 is like the worst thing ever. Like, that's the last thing I want, dude. That's like my saving grace on finasteride, if I was somebody who cared about neurological health, would be the fact that I have no inhibition of type 1. And I'm taking care of type 2 and type 3 in the scalp and leaving type 1 the fuck alone to maintain that neurological processes and that neurosteroid synthesis. So this is like the last thing I would be looking at personally. Maybe the proposed thing that promotes hair growth might be something worth exploring further, but the actual inhibitory action on 5-AR enzymes, not good in my opinion, especially the fact that it's specific to 5-AR type 1, which is like the least efficacious in a hair loss prevention context and the shittiest for neurosteroid inhibition. So that is my stance on the mangrove tree extract. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Drop them down there. Like, subscribe. Check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. We have pharma-grade hair loss medications there that are actually designed to target receptors and are not that are actually tried and true in human trials and have targeted action rather than hitting the most subpar mechanism possible for inhibiting hair loss. But anyways, you can check out your diagnostics as well through my lab work with the clinic. And if you want to support Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, I designed myself from scratch. Anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below, as well as my newsletter. The first link in the description below if you want to get notified whenever I publish my deep dives into hair loss pharmacology. I publish my most elaborate videos, I guess, as articles here and there. It's honestly far less frequent now, but and that's mostly just because my posting schedule does not allow me the time to write as well, unfortunately. But some of my articles I've done are like very elaborate, very detailed deep dives into hair loss pharmacology, endocrinology, and a bunch of things that are not going to be easily explained and may otherwise can be hard to understand when I'm rambling in videos, whereas I break them down in more concise, palatable subsections in my articles. And I also have hyperlinks to the clinical studies I reference in there for you to actually delve into it further for your own further research if you want to dig into whatever I was referencing specifically. So those are nice, in my opinion, to reference if you want to learn more about a specific subject I cover. And I publish, newsletters sometimes with exclusive offers, discounts, and stuff relevant to the channel. So a lot of incentive to sign up for that. It's the first link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.